What's going on, people? Welcome to the United Stand. Listen, my name is Maud, and it's the 2 p.m. show. Now, look, there's a few things I actually want to go through today, but I really want to keep this show interactive. That's what I really like to do. I want to hear you guys' opinion, so make sure you get into your super chats. Make sure, oh, this has come on, my bad. Anyway, so make sure you get into your super chats. Make sure you definitely comment a lot, because I'm going to be skimming through them. I'm going to be doing some polls. I just really want to know you guys' opinion, and obviously I'll give my opinion, and then we can kind of discuss and have an actual conversation. So the first thing that I really want to go through is, you probably saw the thumbnail, saw the title. It's about Bruno Fernandes. Now, he's probably been one of the biggest topics for at United this whole season, just because of his performances and whatnot. And there's a bit of a mixed opinion. A lot of United fans that I speak to, a lot of them are like, oh, they don't like Bruno. He's not the kind of player that's going to take us to the highest level, considering he is the captain, and you kind of want your captain to be an example to the rest of the team. But on the other hand, a lot of people who say, look, Bruno is actually genuinely one of our best players, and how can you criticise the guy that's won us quite a few games? The game at Burnley, that goal he scored, the game at Fulham. There's been a lot of games where he's actually taken control of the game as well. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a little poll. Oh, how can I word this? I think I'm going to go with the captaincy kind of avenue. Do you think Bruno Fernandes should be the Man United captain? Yeah, that's the poll we're going to do to start off with. Do you think Bruno Fernandes should be the Manchester United captain? Now, at the start of the season, obviously Maguire, he got dropped from the captaincy role, which he should have got dropped in my opinion. But I think there was a little bit of a debate as to who really should be the captain. And I think Bruno kind of got it based on the fact that there wasn't a certified second place option, if you understand what I'm trying to say. There wasn't really a person after Maguire where it's like, okay, well, if it's not Maguire, it has to be this person. I think Bruno kind of was just the leading vote in a bunch of people who kind of weren't ready to be captain. Rashford, Luke Shaw, who else was there? Casemiro. And if you look at teams in the past, now generally, I don't really like comparing this team to the old United team, because it's a little bit depressing, because you realise how far behind we actually are. But when you look at teams in the past, you look at the Champions League winning team that won in 2008, and you look at the players that were in that team, yes, they were top quality players, but a lot of them were captain worthy. You look at players like Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, Carrick, Giggs. These are all players, Van der Sar, these are all players that if they weren't at United, they would probably be the captain of whatever team they're in. You know what I mean? So there was always that second place option, third place option, fourth place option, fifth place option to take over a captaincy role if the main captain wasn't available. But comparing it to today, there really isn't that option. We don't even have a second option, if we're being honest. If Bruno wasn't a captain, who really would be the captain? Let me see what the votes are saying. We've got quite a few of them right now. Actually, I'm going to leave it. When we get to about 1,000 votes or something like that, I'm going to see who people think. But let me go through to the super chat. Somebody said, not super chat, these are just the comments. Somebody saying McTominay for captain. No, that's probably the one thing that I can give him. If I'm going to give McTominay any credit in anything to do with United, it's the fact that he does seem like a good leader, I guess. Like, he does have good like post-match interviews and whatnot. He does seem to be passionate for the club and whatnot. So I guess McTominay, maybe for the under-21s, I don't know. Who else is there? Someone said Martinez. He's experienced, won the World Cup. He's not a young player as well. He's around 25, 26, I don't know, but that's a good option. Who else are people saying? Onana, don't know about that one. Varane or Casemiro, that's an interest. That's probably the two people that most people kind of suggest, Varane or Casemiro. They are the most experienced when it comes to achievements. Both of them have won, I think, 5 Champions Leagues each. Obviously, yeah, for the same team, but they both won a lot. They played at the highest level. Both of them are international players. I think Varane won the World Cup, right? I'm pretty sure he won the World Cup with France. So yeah, they are probably the two most experienced players, and if you especially want to build up the younger side of the team, you're going to want the older players, like I said, Varane, Casemiro, to kind of teach them a little bit. Luke Shaw, in my opinion, no. Who else is there? Anthony, obviously not. Mainu is a future captain. Mainu is 100% a future captain. I don't want to put any more pressure on his back. I feel like he's already got too much pressure anyway, but give him another I say 5 years, 5 years at the club, maybe even less than that. How old was Declan Rice when he became West Ham captain? He was pretty young, to be fair. So mainly the way out, he's so mature, not just his game, but even you don't hear any news coming out about Manu. I'll be surprised if one day I heard a random story that Manu did something crazy outside of football. I'd be genuinely surprised. He's someone who, if you have to trust a player to not cause any off-field problems, it'll be Manu. And on the pitch, like I said, he plays mature. He plays like he's 25, 26, 27. So 100% Manu's someone for the future. So I'm going to go to the poll now. The question was, do you think Bruno should be the United captain? Wow, that's very, very close. So there's 3 options. The first one was yes, and that was 42%. The second option was no at 44%. And the third option was not sure at 14%. So, I mean, I'm going to discard the not sure because this is sitting on the fence. But 42% and 44%, that's split in the middle, in my opinion. That's pretty much just everyone. Nobody. In fact, funnily enough, to me, that's everyone saying you're not sure. Because that's so split, it means that there's not like a clear, yes, he should 100% be the captain, and there's not a clear, no, he shouldn't be the captain. But the quotes from Roy Keane, who is most United fans' favourite captain, if you had to, I remember at the live show that we did, the Christmas live show, I think Mark must have asked a question to say, who would everyone want to come back? If there's one player that everyone would want to come back into this team to make a difference, who would everyone say? And I think the main person that everyone kind of said was Roy Keane. And the reason why people said that was because of his leadership. Because I think the problem that United now, well, there's a lot of problems, but one of the main problems is the fact that there's no one to bring the players who are not playing well. There's no one to really like boost up their confidence and really like bring them back or get them to perform the way that we need them to perform. And there's a lot of laziness on the pitch, players walking. That wouldn't happen with Roy Keane and the team, let's be honest. No one's walking if Roy Keane's in the team because everyone's scared. In fact, that's something, put in the comments right now, if you had to bring one player back to the team, who do you think it would be? Super chat here from Liverpool 32 Red said, could you keep Manu though if the team doesn't compete? I think definitely for now anyway. He's 18. There's not really a reason for him to leave because whatever team he goes to, he's still going to be an 18-year-old potential player. And realistically, the quality that he has to play for a top team. And when I say a top team, I don't just mean like, no offense to any Aston Villa fans that are watching, but not an I mean like a team like United, a big 6 team. You have to play for a team that's potentially going to be competing year in, year out for the big trophies. And yes, United are not playing well right now, but we are still a big team, let's be honest. So I think Manu staying at United isn't really a problem. I don't think there's any real rumours about Manu going to be leaving anytime soon. Another super chat from Jason Sandon. Bruno is why our midfield gets run through. He's always out of position, which leaves us exposed. Facts. I think that is true. But what I will say to counter that is, it's not just him. Our midfield has been chopping and changing all season. I mean, it's going to change again as soon as Casemiro comes back. So it's kind of difficult for me to say he's the reason why the midfield is exposed when we've got players like Eriksen, who, in my opinion, you look at that last game against Spurs, I think their second goal, in my opinion, that's partly on Eriksen's fault, not following his runner. I mean, how many times have we seen United concede goals based off the fact that there's just a free player in the box, or there's a free player that's just ran through the middle, ran through the defence, and no midfielder's picked up the run. McTominay as well goes ghost every game, 100% of the games. So I can't just put it on Bruno to say he's the reason, especially the fact that he is probably the most advanced player that we have. It is true what you're saying, but there's definitely other players that are involved. Let me check if I can do any more super chats. Yeah, another one from Liverpool 32 Red says, oh, I mean, by the time he takes the armband. Okay, so, I mean, that just depends on when you think he should He's going to take the armband, in my opinion. I think he definitely should. He's 18. I wouldn't put any pressure on him anytime soon to do that. I think that just adds unnecessary weight, like I said, on his back. But like I said, in 5 years' time, 6 years' time, I definitely think Mainey will still be at the club. I don't see a reason why he'd leave. Unless he goes overseas, I don't see a reason why he'd leave. Mario Franco says, I'm not having that. Bruno is the only one who runs. You know what? I take back what I said. That is facts. Bruno probably runs the most out of nearly every player in the league. The way I see Bruno run, you can tell that, see with top players, and this is something that, I'm not no coach, I'm not no expert, but this is just something that I've seen and I've noticed. But with top players, especially midfielders, if they're not having a good game, you can see that they're still trying by just the way how, like, their energy on the pitch. If you've got a player who's not having a good game, but they're walking around, their heads down and whatnot, to me, that just shows a lack of confidence. That shows that definitely not a leader. And to me, you're not a top player, because a top player can improve his game by the work effort that he puts in, by just constantly running, constantly trying to make something happen. And that's something that Bruno does. He's always running, he's always putting in energy. Sometimes he's leading from the front, and he's not supposed to, but he's leading literally the furthest player forward, trying to press the goalkeepers or press the centre-backs. So 100%, Bruno does run a lot. So yeah, I mean, back onto this quote by Roy Keane. So he says that, so he doesn't think that Bruno is fit for purpose as a Man United captain. He also says it's not as if he's an experienced player. He'd get away with it if United were winning more matches and he was producing his bits of magic. Okay, that's that. You know what it is, with Roy Keane, because he says a lot of wild things, it's kind of hard sometimes to take his opinion like 100%. He does do a lot on the pitch. That's my main thing with Bruno. Sometimes I refer to him as a luxury player, because there's things that he does which nobody else, definitely in our team, and sometimes in the other team as well, that nobody else can do. You look at the game against Burnley, the goal that he scored. Not even name 3 other players. Name 2 other players or 1 other player on that pitch who could have scored that goal. It's difficult, and sometimes when you have a player that is that good or that is capable of doing that, they kind of get excused a little bit for other responsibilities. But because they can do something like score a goal, like the goal that he scored against Burnley, the volley from Johnny Evans, there's a little bit of an excuse for them. Let me see what the chat is saying. Someone said Bruno is gassed out. He's being overused 100%. I think he's played the most games out of every player since he's come, which is wild. Someone said again, I think we overuse Bruno. The guy plays every minute, never has a break. Facts. Someone said Bruno and Rashi are both desperate at throwing up their arms in contempt. It annoys the hell out of me. See, my thing with that is a lot of people say that every single week. That's probably one of the main things that I hear people complain about, is just the way our Bruno is always complaining at the referee and whatnot. But one thing that I've tried to think about or I've taken into consideration is sometimes he might just be frustrated at himself. Same with Rashford. A lot of times when you see a lot of players, they might, let's say they miss a pass or they miss a shot, or they might try and chase a ball down and they might not get it and they might complain. They might just be annoyed at themselves. And I know I'm giving excuses here or whatever, I don't care, but they might just be annoyed at the fact that they're not having a good game. It might not necessarily be annoyed at, oh, he's not doing this or he's not doing that. It could genuinely be frustration at the way how they're playing. So yeah, the throwing the hands in the air, I don't like it because it looks bad in general. It just looks like we're not having a good game. Because how often do you see a City player or Arsenal player or Liverpool player constantly complaining? Because that, to me, just kind of shows the other team, okay, these guys are frustrated. And when you show the other team that you're frustrated, that's when the things get a bit techie. Because at that level as well, the top players can really take advantage of that. And if it becomes a physical game and you're a top player, you don't want to have those kind of problems, in my opinion. But look, I'm gonna go up to the chat. Somebody said Bruno don't have a control on match. The way you type this message is horrible. He rush ball too much. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes he does always look for the first time crazy pass. But look, anyway, I'm going to move on. We've got another quote from McTominay, everyone's favourite player, apparently. And he had an interview or a podcast or something with Football Joe. And he stated, in fact, I actually want you guys to guess, yeah? Guess who he stated, unless somebody already knows in the chat, but guess who he stated was the hardest worker in training. Go on, put it in the chat right now. Let me know, who do you guys think McTominay said was the hardest worker in training, the guy who sets the levels in training? Let me see who you guys, before I tell you, if you already saw the interview, then fair enough. But let me just see what everyone's saying. Someone said Højlund, Rashford, Bruno, Højlund or Bruno, Sancho. Sancho's not been in training for a while. Someone said Delo, Rashford himself, Martial, Højlund. Who else? Rashford, Delo. So, I mean, quite a few people got it right, to be fair. But the person who said is the best in training is Marcus Rashford. Now, that kind of just contradicts a little bit what everyone's opinion is of Rashford. Because everyone's got this opinion of Rashford that he's lazy, that he's always complaining and that he's not putting in work on the pitch and he doesn't play for the badge and he just plays for himself and whatnot. But, I mean, McTominay's clearly saying here that Rashford is the guy in training. He literally said he sets the levels. He sets the levels. And in a team with Casemiro and Varane and these experienced players, these players that are older than him, Eriksen's older than him. Who else is older than him in that team? I think Luke Shaw's around the same age. Bruno's obviously the captain. Maguire's older than him. Rashford is the guy that sets the levels in training. So I think the fact that he isn't playing well during the games, but you can see that he actually is trying in training, is one reason why I personally, I mean, I've always been a fan of Rashford anyway, but it's another reason why I personally think that we shouldn't get rid of Rashford 100%, because I mean, this is another reason. I'm probably going to touch on a few other reasons later on, but this is one of the reasons why I think we can't get rid of a player who clearly works hard behind the scenes. On the pitch, yes, he's not having the best season, but behind the scenes, he's one of our most experienced players, as in when it comes to players who've been at the club for a long time. He's been the longest. Obviously, he was an academy player, but first team-wise, he's been here the longest, I think. And like I said here, he genuinely is the person who tries the hardest in training. So I think that's definitely something that can help, especially the younger players, Mainu, Garnacho, Palestri, Diallo. This is something that they can really look to. Somebody says that's not good news. Somebody said, come on now, let's be honest, the staff actually train the hardest. Yeah, man, you need to give respect to the dinner ladies, man. I don't know why Ronaldo called out the dinner ladies. We don't even know who they are. Someone said, bring Weghorst back, he works hard. He probably did, to be fair, but Weghorst, that was a good time, but it's over now. Someone says, sorry, don't agree. Games are not won on the training pitch. Yeah, but that's where it starts, though. That's the only way you're going to win a game is by working hard on the training pitch. Not everyone's Hazard. Like, not everyone's, I don't know, he doesn't work hard. Not everyone's Ronaldo or Messi or whatever. Like, everybody, the average player, the normal players, the top players, you have to work hard on the training pitch before you get to the game. So that's definitely the beginning of victories, of winning trophies. Somebody says, even I will work hard. If that's the case, please sign him at Man United. Someone said, do you want him working hard on the pitch or on training? It's hand in hand. Like, there's no reason for someone to work hard in training and then they come to the game and be like, you know what, I've done training now, I don't need to play hard. He obviously is trying. Like, you're not going to try hard in training and then just forget about it when the actual game comes. That makes no sense. He's obviously trying to get his form back at least anyway, or he has that mentality already to work hard in training behind the scenes. And I mean, it happens all the time. Players don't go through runs of games or even have a season when they're not playing well. Look at Sadio Mane. I'm not trying to say Rashford is as good as Mane, but he had a season where he had stinkers. I'm sure he was still working hard on the training pitch every single day, and eventually he came back. Carl Robinson says, as captain, Bruno should be telling them to run. Facts. That is the role of a captain, to be fair. You should be leading your team. You should be telling your team what to do. But anyway, let's move on. So, next thing I really want to talk on is, and this one I definitely want you guys in the chat to be interactive with. We're going to go through a few, not every single player, don't need to go through everyone. We're going to go through some of the team, and I want you guys to just let me know whether you want to keep or sell them. And obviously, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to read out what you guys' opinion is on these players. Some of them, potentially, they're going to leave anyway this summer. But some of them are really debatable. So the first player, in fact, this is the first two, actually, because I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. Now, there's been talks about potentially Wan-Bissaka being involved in like a trade option with Elise, sending him back to Crystal Palace, and then we get Elise. Probably put a bit of money on top, because Elise is probably worth more than Wan-Bissaka. But there is actually that talk about Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. So let me know in the chat right now, which one would you sell and which one would you keep? Because you can't sell both of them. That makes no sense. You can't sell both of them. And I've always said they're both not good enough to take us to the highest level. If we really want to win a Champions League, win a Premier League, yes, we're not there yet, but if we really want to be at that level, one of the best teams in the world, in my opinion, Dalot and Wan-Bissaka are both not good enough. They both don't have the attributes that the other top right backs have in the world. So it's really just a case of who would you keep for now? Who are you going to keep for now? Who do you think is going to make the most impact on the team for now to take us to the next step, which then eventually we can then work to a title challenging team? So everyone's saying, let me see what people are saying. Keep both, sell Dalot, keep Wan-Bissaka, keep Dalot, sell Wan-Bissaka. In fact, let me do a poll. Who would you keep out of the two, Wan-Bissaka or Dalot? Then we can get a bit of a better judgment on that. So someone's saying, get rid of Dalot, too inconsistent. Look, I had an argument. Me and Faz go back and forth on this all the time, because you guys probably know how much Faz loves Dalot. You'd think they were related. Like, genuinely, he waits for him after games. Like, that's his favourite player, one of his favourite players. And I'm not going to say Wan-Bissaka is my favourite player, but he's just, in my opinion, he's just more impactful than Dalot. I just feel like Wan-Bissaka on the pitch is going to do something that Dalot can't do. People say that Dalot's best attribute is his offensive traits. I think Wan-Bissaka is more assists than him this season. How does that work? How does Wan-Bissaka, the guy who can't attack, can't cross, can't do anything, has more assists in the Premier League than Dalot does? And if you look at Dalot's one assist that he has, he might have two actually. He might have two assists. But yeah, I think he got an assist recently. But before that, his one assist that he had was that cross to Garnacho, which was a horrible cross anyway, because nobody was on the end of it. The only thing that Garnacho could have done was the most spectacular finish we've ever seen. So in my opinion, if it wasn't for Garnacho pulling out an absolute worldie, he'd have no assists, or he might have one assist this season. So it's like, how great is he at crossing? We talk about how good he is at crossing and whatnot. How good really is he if there's nothing to back up those stats? And like I said, the modern fullback nowadays, the top fullbacks nowadays, they're putting up assists. You have to put up some kind of, maybe it doesn't have to be numerical, like a specific number, like you have to put up 10 assists or whatnot. It doesn't have to be that, but you have to put up some kind of offensive impact into the team if you have some kind of defensive liabilities. And Dalot, as we know, has defensive liabilities. In fact, in my opinion, if Wan-Bissaka had started every single Champions League game, we'd be in a Champions League right now. Because the game against Galatasaray, Dalot got handled by Zaha. He couldn't handle him. You know what I mean? So if you're going to have some kind of defensive liabilities, you better make sure your offensive attributes are one of the best in the league, because that's the only way you can counter it. Look at someone like Trent. Everyone says Trent can't defend, which I don't necessarily agree with, in my opinion. But everyone says Trent can't defend. But what he does offensively is so good. The impact on the team is worth it. It's worth it. If he really can't defend, what he's doing going forward makes it worth it. Dalot doesn't make it worth it, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm a Wan-Bissaka to stay over Dalot. So let me see what people are saying. Wan-Bissaka would not offset Onana's deficiencies in the Champions League. Yeah, obviously Onana was a big problem. Let me not even lie. Dalot has versatility though. Yeah, he does, but it's not the kind of versatility that's going to make a huge impact on the team. That's, like I said, the main reason why I want Wan-Bissaka over Dalot is just based off impact. Because both of them aren't good enough to take us to the top level. So who's going to have the biggest impact? In my opinion, the impact that Wan-Bissaka has defensively, and he can go forward, like I said, he does have either the same amount of assists or more assists as Dalot, but the impact that he has defensively, Dalot couldn't even tie up his boots. He couldn't even comprehend being that good defensively. And that's what, at the end of the day, the way United play now, like this season, we genuinely need that. We need someone to be able to shut up shop sometimes. We need someone to be able to control, dangerous wingers and be able to get a lot of ball recoveries, not just at right back, but in the middle of the pitch as well. So the vote is 65% said Dalot, which I can't lie, I expected it, and 34% said Wan-Bissaka. So someone actually said here, Dalot is not a defender. Where else would you put him? Like, where else would you? Because he's definitely not like an attacking player. I wouldn't put him anywhere in the attack. Midfield. Well, you know what it is? He's very inverted, to be fair. So he kind of does play in the midfield anyway. Wan-Bissaka isn't poor in possession. He just sucks in attack. Hell no, don't want Dalot in the team. He can go. Anyway, yeah, let me move on from there. I've been talking about them two for a while. So yeah, so most people did say Dalot, to be fair. So we'll see how that goes in the summer. Next player, or the next position I want to go to is centre-back position. So there's three players that I really want to touch on. Varane, Maguire, and Lindelof. Now, there's actually a chance that all three of them can go, which, that's a problem. If we lose three centre-backs, considering the problems that we've had this season with centre-backs, with injuries and whatnot, if we lose three centre-backs in the summer, we're in trouble. We're going to have to bring in 2 or 3, and one of them has to be experienced. We can't just rely on 19-year-olds. I mean, we've already got Kambwala, who's not playing too bad, if I'm being honest, but again, can't rely on him to be playing every game. And if we do bring in, like I said, if we bring in someone like Tadibo, or we bring in someone like a Silva, these guys are still young. So we can't just have a full-on under-21 defence or centre-back pairing. So let me know, what do you guys think about... Let me start off with Varane. Do you think Varane should stay at United in the summer? Now, I think the main problem with Varane is just his injury. He's injury prone. I don't know if he's played more than 5 games in a row this season. And yeah, he had the whole situation with Ten Hag, which I don't actually understand. I don't know what the real problem was with them, but it obviously caused something to make him not play regular games. And Johnny Evans took his spot, which is wild. Johnny Evans, 37-year-old or 36-year-old Johnny Evans, took his spot. But yeah, I think the main problem with Varane is literally just the fact that he's injury prone. Super chat here from Duncania, sorry if I've butchered that. But they said, keeping Wan-Bissaka over Dalot all day. Rather have an option of the best 1v1 defender to deal with top wingers than a fullback who's not great all round. Similar to what I was saying, I'd rather have that player who can make a genuine impact on the team than have a player who, yes, he might be a bit more versatile, but he's not creating it. He's not making a huge impact to the team. We could probably sub him out for, I mean, who else? We don't even have anyone else right back. But yeah, we could probably bring in another average player from the Premier League, and they did the exact same job as Dalot, in my opinion. Another super chat from Dan Edis. We need Nicolo Barella. I don't actually know a lot about Nicolo. I've heard, I don't know a lot, I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about Nicolo Barella. Someone that I probably need to do a bit of research on. Somebody said, #1 specialist at one-on-one should be kept. Facts. So yeah, let's move on from Varane. Let's touch on Maguire. In my opinion, Maguire has to go. I don't care if he had a good spell or whatever you want to call it that he had this season. Maguire has to go. Like, if people are calling for Rashford to leave, if people are calling for Bruno to leave, if people are calling for who else has been there for a while? Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka. Maguire has to be in that conversation. Has to be in that conversation. In my he genuinely, he's probably been either the worst or top 2 or top 3 worst United signings ever, considering how much we paid for him. One of the worst. And considering that he was our captain. He was our captain. Like, for your captain to be one of your worst ever signings, it's just United for you, innit? So yeah, Maguire has to go in my opinion. And lastly, Lindelof. I think Lindelof is going to go anyway. That's another player who's just kind of been floating around the club, just kind of just been here when we needed him. Never really had a top season, never really stood out, never did anything that's made us think, yeah, Lindelof has to stay or whatnot. Like I said, a few good games, what do they call him, ice cold and whatnot, on occasion, I guess. But yeah, not a player who, like I said before, not a player who's going to take us to the top level. No way. Definitely not starting anyway. Maybe as a 3rd, 4th choice. But if I'm Lindelof, I'm wanting to go anyway because he could probably start for a few Premier League teams or a few top teams across Europe. So yeah, he should go. Moving on from centre-back. In fact, let me see what the chat's saying. Someone said keep Varane, keep Wan-Bissaka. Someone said McTominay and Evans has to go. Evans is probably going to leave anyway, or he might stay to like coach or something. But Evans was never a long-term signing anyway. Somebody said Wan-Bissaka is actually a much better dribbler too. Dalot has pace, but too many mistakes in him. I wouldn't say, see Wan-Bissaka, the way he dribbles, it looks like he doesn't have a strong foot. I know that sounds crazy, but when you look at Wan-Bissaka dribbling, it's like he's off balance. I don't even want to get onto him too much because I like him, but it looks like he's a bit off balance when he dribbles. Like he doesn't have that kind of technique in his dribbling where it's like, oh, he's a confident dribbler. He just looks like the ball hits his foot and then it hits his foot again and and he passes it. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't look like a confident dribbler. I know people who can dribble better than Wan-Bissaka, personally. I definitely don't think that's one of his better traits, in my opinion. Somebody says, Dalot already got a new deal, so Wan-Bissaka is likely on the chopping block. I think Wan-Bissaka just got a 12-month extension. Somebody check that for me. But I think Wan-Bissaka just got a 12-month extension to stay at the club, so we'll see how that goes. Somebody said it looks unorthodox when he dribbles. Yeah, I agree. Like it looks, like I said, it looks like he doesn't know that he's supposed to be dribbling. Like it just looks like he's running and the ball is just coincidentally at his feet. You know what I mean? But let's move on from the defense and let's go into the midfield. 2 midfielders that I want to talk on: Casemiro and Bruno. We'll start off with Casemiro. Obviously, we spoke about Bruno already at the beginning. But Casemiro, do you guys think that Casemiro should stay next season? Now, last season, Casemiro was genuinely one of our best players, if not our best player, in my opinion. I think there wasn't really anyone who I could say fully outshining. Rashford obviously had his patch, whatever you want to call it, where he was scoring a lot of goals. But I think Casemiro was super consistent. I think the fact that he was playing next to somebody like Fred more often than... or not Fred, sorry. He's playing someone with Eriksen more often than someone like McTominay. I think this season, because he's had to play with players like McTominay and whatnot, and the midfield's kind of been a bit more weak. Players like Mount, who, I'm not saying Mount's a bad player, but he's a 10. He's not an 8. He's not going to be there to kind of move around Casemiro and provide the legs that he'd need. I think the balance in the midfield last season was a bit better. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. The balance was a bit better and it suited Casemiro a bit more. But this season, he's just been a bit inconsistent. Yes, injuries have definitely not helped him. But I think because of how well I've seen him play, I don't think he's lost it. That's my thing with Casemiro. I don't think he's fully lost it. I just think he needs to go back to playing in a more balanced midfield with someone like Manu and Bruno. I think that's a much more balanced midfield. And I feel like we're going to see a bit better performances from Casemiro going forward. Someone said keep Cas. He's a 5-time Champions League winner. Brings so much midfield into the brings so much experience into midfield. Facts. Somebody said we need to stop living in football manager land and get back to reality. How can we sell if no one else wants them and they are on stupid wages and they refuse to go? We can't do anything. That sounds very negative. what's he called? Andy. Andy, that sounds very negative, man. We're hoping. This is all speculation because we don't own the club. We're not there to make the decisions, but it's opinion. We're talking about who should come, who we think should come, and who we think should go out. I mean, we're the fans. So at the end of the day, the fans are the ones who, in my opinion, the fans are the ones who run the club. But look, so Rory C Super Chat, he says, Cass will be fine. Our issues in the midfield are structural, not personnel. Look at how many goals we've shipped without him. 100%. I mean, you look at the one game that I think highlighted how badly structured our midfield was the City game. Now, not the City game where we lost, I think it was 3-0. I think it was 3-0. Yeah. Yeah, the one that was 3-0. And it was the game where, I remember one of the goals, I think Haaland got an assist. The last goal was Haaland's assist to Foden. And I just remember watching McTominay and Eriksen just not walking, but they just weren't following the runners. And the way our City play in general is everyone's running. Everyone's trying to make runs in behind. Everyone's trying to stretch the pitch to create those gaps in between the fullbacks and the centre-backs. So if you're not running, if you're not following these runs, if you're not making sure that you're structured, you're organised, they're just going to absolutely just dominate the game because they're just going to pass it through you so easily. And there was a goal, one of the goals, or a couple of the goals, in my opinion, they were purely down to McTominay and Eriksen not following the runners and leaving guys to run in behind, Grealish, Foden, Haaland. I don't know who else played that game, but leaving those guys, these top players, to just make these easy runs in behind into the defence. And all of a sudden now you've left players like Johnny Evans, and he was over centre back that game. It might have been Maguire or Varane, I can't remember. But leaving these guys under pressure now because they've got now 2 or 3 players that they have to try and look at and try and defend. When really, if you just followed your player, then you could have covered that player. You could have covered that threat. So yeah, I think 100% right. I think structure is a problem in our midfield. Players not knowing exactly what their roles are. McTominay goes so many times during the game. But yeah, somebody says get rid of McT. Somebody said Aaron Wan-Bissaka has the football brain, but not the skill in his feet to let him do it. You can see he knows what he wants to do, but can't always get his feet on the same wavelengths. That's pretty much what I was trying to say, but you just worded it very well. Somebody says breakfast at levels. I'm glad someone has owned up not good enough. What's your opinion on Ten Hag? I might touch on him a bit later. Right, it's 37. Time's gone quick. Somebody says Casemiro could still do a great job in midfield as part of the squad and provide leadership. If we buy another quality DM, must come before a pure 8. Sadly, his huge wage means his days are numbered. Now, wages at United has always been a problem. I think it started when, actually I can't tell you exactly when it started, but the fact that we were just giving players 10 years ago 300k a week means that 10 years later now, there's not so many players, but there's quite a few players that are just on ridiculous wages. It's hard, first of all, it's hard to sell them because there's no other clubs that are going to want to pay 250k a week for average players. And secondly, it's hard. They don't want to leave. Like, look at Maguire. I don't think Maguire, one of the reasons why Maguire didn't want to leave was because he was on so much money. Dean Henderson, if you don't know who he is, he's a goalkeeper. Who's Dean Henderson? I can't remember who Dean Henderson went to. But yeah, he was a backup goalkeeper for United. He was the 6th highest paid goalkeeper in the league at one point. Just take that in. Dean Henderson was the 6th highest paid goalkeeper at Manchester United. I mean, in the Premier League, and he wasn't even our starting goalkeeper. So that just shows you how bad our wage structure is. Now, I've just been told about some breaking news from Anthony Martial. Now, the news says, this is from Sky, Anthony Martial's agent has denied reports that the Man United striker has been told to train alone because he is not fit. Now, for anyone who doesn't understand what they're talking about, there was reports that came out that Martial has been kind of separated from the first team squad to train by himself because he's not fit enough. Maybe it's because of the illness or whatever it was, but there was reports that he was training by himself, not with the team. Maybe because maybe it was Ten Hag's decision. Most likely was Ten Hag's decision. He's obviously the manager. But the breaking news is that Martial's agent has denied reports that the striker's been told to train alone because he is not fit. Now I'm a bit confused. Is that, I don't know if that's them trying to say that he's denied reports that he's being told to train alone, or if it's because he's not fit. Maybe he's still training alone, but I don't think fitness might be the issue. Maybe there's another reason there that he's being told to train alone. Maybe Ten Hag's just on one of his, we've seen him do it before with a couple of players. So maybe Ten Hag's just on his whole get Martial back to fitness or back to whatever it was by himself. Maybe it's a disciplinary thing. I don't know. But yeah, that is, whatever that report was before about it's because it's his fitness, false news. Now I want to touch on Martial anyway. I'm literally about to go on to him when discussing the forward players as to who you guys think should be kept at the club or should be sold. So we may as well start off with Martial now that we're talking about him. Now obviously there were reports that he was going to go out on loan this month, January transfer window. That's obviously not going to happen anymore. As far as I'm concerned, maybe, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, that probably isn't going to happen. So do you guys think that Martial should stay, or actually no, let me do a poll. Let me do a poll for this one. Would you, because Martial's probably going to stay, so would you start Martial after the January transfer window if he was to stay? So would you start Martial going forward, or would you start Højlund? Let me know. Let's put a poll in the question in the chat and let's see what people say. Let me see if there are any more super chats actually. Oh, so I've got a quote here. It's a quote from Philippe Lamberly, who is Martial's representative. He said that Martial has had hip issues that requires surgery. Okay, so this is the quote. What is said about him is completely false. He was not excluded from the group and he has no problem with Ten Hag. Anthony has been in Manchester for 9 seasons. 9 seasons. He's 1 year away from a testimonial. 9 seasons. That's crazy. Anthony Martial has been in Manchester for 9 seasons, and if he was not a great professional, then he would not have been at the club for so long. He's simply going to undergo a small operation on his abductors, which he should have done for a while, and which did not allow him to be 100%. So he will do it now. Okay, so that pretty much clears up all the rumours. It's based off an injury. I mean, that's been Martial's story since he's come to the club. Injuries. When I think of Martial in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, when I think back at Martial's career at United, the first thing that's going to come to my head is injuries, because that's genuinely been his whole story. But so according to his representative, if you didn't just hear what I said, it's based off a hip issue. That's why he's being told to train by himself. A hip issue which he's going to be getting surgery on, which means he's probably going to be out for a little bit, to be fair. So I guess he probably won't be starting after the January window. But so yeah, that hip injury meant that he wasn't 100%. So hopefully after the hip injury, we might see a different Martial. You never know. If he's saying that he wasn't 100% before, maybe we're going to see a more improved Martial. Let me see what the super chat is saying. Or not the super chat, the chat's saying. So far, I mean, it's looking like a landslide, I can't lie. The question was, would you start Martial after the January window closes? It's looking pretty much like a landslide. Everyone's saying no. 71% said no, 29% are saying yes. Let me see what people are saying in the chat. To be fair, 29%, in my opinion, I'm no as well. I would rather Højlund start. I think he's finally picking up a bit of form, especially because he's finally got his first 2 goals in the Premier League. I think that form is going to continue. And to take him out of the team, unless you're going to take him out of the team for a established player that I know 100% is giving us goals week in, week out, he's going to be a threat. Unless you're going to take Højlund out for someone like that, it's not worth taking him out. He's 20 years old. He needs the experience regardless. You know, this is his first you'd be surprised. This is probably one of Haaland's first full seasons. I know he came into the team injured, but when he was playing for Atlanta, he only played 21 games. He's already played more than that this season, I think. So this is genuinely one of Haaland's first proper full seasons at this level anyway. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't put Martial over him. So let me see what people are saying in the chat. Somebody said he's made of glass, literally made of glass. I wish I had the stat here, but I read something about how many games he's been injured for in his United career, and it's in the hundreds, which is wild. Over 150 games, I'm pretty sure. He's been, I don't know, is it 150 games or 150 days? I can't remember. But yeah, he's been injured. So I think he's been injured every single season. That is the 9 seasons in a row. He's been injured every single season. So yeah, that poll ended 71% no and 28% said yes. So yeah, so let's move on from Martial. The other player that I really want you guys to kind of discuss a little bit. I already know what the general consensus is on this player, which is very opposite to mine, but it is Marcus Rashford. Now, right at the start of the show, we spoke about McTominay's quote about how Rashford sets the levels in training. He's the guy who, even though he's not been playing the greatest, I think that's an understatement to be fair, but he's not been playing well at all, let's be honest. He's the guy in training who is letting people know this is the standard that you guys need to train to, or need to train towards, need to work towards. So do you guys think that Rashford should stay, or do you guys think Rashford should go? In my opinion, there is no need to sell Rashford. It doesn't make sense. And I have this conversation, genuinely have this conversation every day with United fans. People DM me all the time, sending me long voice notes about whether or not they think Rashford should stay or should go. And I've always been a guy to say, look, we're not going to bring in somebody better. That's just facts. That's the first thing. We're not going to bring in someone better. Secondly, I don't think Rashford has to be the main guy. He just happened to be the main guy because he played the best or he's performed the best in previous seasons. If you think about it, who else should be the main guy at United? It's him or Bruno. There's nobody else that you can say has continually been at the club for at least 2-3 years and has put up performances. So the reason why, the fact that Rashford is the main guy right now is just based off the fact that he's just played the best. It's not because he has to be Man United's go-to guy to get us all the goals and get us all the assists. In my opinion, I'd rather Rashford just be not necessarily a role player. That's a bit of a, I don't think that's the right term to use, but somebody who we can bring on to make an impact, somebody who can start as a winger, but we're not relying on him every single week to get us a goal, because that's not the player. In my opinion, that's not the player who he's shown this season anyway that he is. So yeah, that's the second reason. Third reason, I think a lot of people want to sell him just because of the fact that he's been here for so long. He's been here for, when did he? I think it was around 2015, 2016, around that time that he came in, which is 9 years. I think that's been 9 years. He's been here for 9 years. That's another player who's 1 year away from being here for 10 years. Luke Shaw as well. He's been here for about 9 years as well. So he's been here for so long. And look, he's been at United in the worst era in United history. Now, I didn't watch football in the 80s, in the 60s, and the 70s. Weren't alive, my bad, innit? I didn't watch it in that time. But maybe if Ricky's in the chat, let me know. But if somebody who watched football in that time, but maybe they can say United were in a worse position. But right now, we're definitely in the worst era of Premier League history. That's a fact. Maybe in United history in general. And Rashford, unfortunately for him, you know, he probably grew up watching, he definitely grew up watching us win Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, whatnot. And he just happened to come into the team when we're just terrible. So that's one thing that I'd say is unfortunate on his case. He just happened to be here at the worst time. Maybe if he was here during Fergie's time, it'd be a completely different situation. But he's had to deal with so much at this club. Now, I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for him, because I have no reason to feel sorry for someone earning that much money, in my opinion. There's no reason to feel sorry for anyone. But just based off the fact that he's not necessarily been in any real top United team, you know, any real, people comparing him to other players and other teams who are performing well. Other teams that are playing, you know, that are competing week in, week out for not week in, week out, season after season for big trophies, Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues, teams that, like I said, are getting points. We know on the forum was it last week we played Spurs or 2 weeks ago? We spoke a bit about Rashford's confidence, and what I think the question was that I gave to Faz was, do you think Rashford, if he left to go to potentially, let's say, a PSG, do you think he'd perform better? And I think Faz's answer was no. And my rebuttal to that was, the reason why I think he would play better is because Rashford, we know he plays based off confidence. We know that already. He said it himself. It's not it's not my opinion. It's just facts. He said it himself. He plays better based on his confidence. How you know, his whole mentality is kind of what drives him to perform well. Now, your confidence as a player is hugely dependent on how well the team is doing and how well the club is doing in general. Now, because United won, we haven't, like I said, we've not been doing well for the past over 10 years. And not only that, but just the problems at the club have just been ridiculous. Look at the problems that, you're forgetting, Rashford's probably close friends with a lot of these players that have left the club. He's definitely close friends with Lingard, we know that already. Lingard had his problems at United. He's close friends with with Sancho. We already know what happened with him. He might have been close friends with Greenwood, I don't know. I'm just assuming, I don't know. But he might have been friends with him. Pogba, I'm sure he's close friends with him as well. Like, all these players, I'm sure he probably looked up to Ronaldo. All these players who Rashford has probably been close to have all had horrible exits to the club. Now, these are all things that are going to impact your confidence on the pitch. They're going to impact your performance on the pitch. And obviously, like I said, the fact that we're losing is another thing that's going to impact everything. The fact, we were losing. We've lost. How many finals have we lost? We lost the final. We lost the final last season against City. We lost the final in the Europa League. We lost countless semi-finals with Oli. We lost the semi-final in the Europa League again. We lost the semi-final in the League Cup. All of these things, they do take a toll on your confidence. Rashford is I suppose someone said this to me the other day. I don't necessarily agree with this, but someone said that Rashford is a serial loser. That's a harsh way of saying it, but he's lost more times than he's won, if we're being honest. He's lost a lot more times than he's won. That is something that's going to take a toll on your confidence. So that's for those reasons, I think if Rashford was to go to a PSG, who do win every week pretty much, more or less anyway, and they do challenge every single year for Champions Leagues, for obviously their league, the League One, and obviously the other domestic trophy that they have, that is going to improve his confidence. And I think they're going to actually see, if they were to get Rashford, they're going to see a much better player than what we're seeing. Super Chat here says, Rashford's one of the highest paid players, gets passed to the most and chooses to shoot instead of passing back. You can't say he isn't the main guy. I'm not saying he's not the main guy. I'm saying he is the main guy, but that's not what he should be. I think he only is the main guy because there is nobody. He's just the best. It's like Bruno being a captain. Bruno's only the captain because there's nobody else to be the captain. Let's be honest. If there was somebody else there who was a certified captain who's been at the club for long enough, Bruno wouldn't be the captain. Same as Rashford. Rashford wouldn't be the main guy if we had, like, think about it. We had Ronaldo. He was the main guy at one point. Lukaku, when he was here, he was the main goal scorer. Ibrahimovic, when he came, he was the main goal scorer. Pogba was one of the main guys at one point, around 2018. When Bruno first came in, he was pretty much the main guy. He was getting us all our goals and assists. We've had other strikers like Falcao and Cavani. Even Martial at one point was supposed to be the main guy. And these are all players that have played with Rashford behind them. And in my opinion, Rashford probably played better when he was behind them. But now that Rashford's being told that, bro, you're on almost 400 grand a week. You better show up. You better bring in performances. You better make sure that you're not slacking in any department. That pressure, I think, is the reason why he's not playing well. And not every player can handle that. So another super chat here from Anil Sekar C says, when Rashford becomes confident, he runs into crowd or blind alleys with more confidence. He runs into crowd or blind alleys with more confidence. Shoots from distance instead of passing with more confidence. So what, are you trying to say that when he's more confident, he plays worse? Is that what you're trying to say? Kyle Robertson says, playing based on confidence is not top level. Facts. That's facts. Again, I didn't say Rashford is supposed to be the best player in the world. I never said he was one of the best players in the world. Again, the top players can play week in, week out, and if they are playing, having a bad game, they find ways to bring themselves back. And confidence isn't one of the things that takes their performance them down. Like I said, with someone like Bruno, even if he's not having a good game, he's going to run. He's going to try and make an impact on the pressing side or whatnot, just to try and, bring up his performance a little bit. So yeah, you're 100% completely right. Playing based on confidence is not top level. Time has gone very quickly. There's about 5 minutes left. Let me see if there's anything specific I want to go through. I was going to go through potential signings, but I think a lot of people are 5 minutes. So we'll go through potential signs a little bit. Let's go through some of the potential signs that could happen in the summer. Now, obviously, we're in a January transfer window, but we're not signing anyone right now. We're broke. Yeah, I say we're broke. It's not me personally, but United are broke. So in the summer, there's a few people who we are being linked with. Most of them are young players. Now, my opinion when it comes to us buying young players is we really need to find a balance. And I feel like United are going down the alleyway of losing that balance. I think we could be in serious trouble if we do only go for potential and we get rid of the experience that we have. For example, the Casemiros, the Varans. If we do get rid of that experience, even the Johnny Evans, we do get rid of all that experience and we just bring in a bunch of 21, 19-year-olds to pair up with the Garnachos and the Mainus and the Diallos that we already do have, and the Hoylands. It's a bit too much potential in the team. And I think that just makes, first of all, a lot more pressure on younger players. And also, they don't really have anyone to look up to. They don't have anyone to learn from, which I think that's just a waste of talent. You're bringing them to a top club and there's no one to even look to and say, oh, he's an established player, I can learn from him. So who do you guys think, in the chat, let me know, who do you guys think should be United's first signing? The first player that a lot of people probably are going to say is Todibo. Now, I mean, I've spoken to Todibo before. We spoke about him on the channel plenty of times. If you don't know who he is, centre-back, plays for Nice. How old is Todibo actually? I didn't put his name on here. He is young though. I can't remember how old exactly he is. But he left-sided centre. Well, he usually plays left-sided, but he can probably play both. He's 24 years old. Oh, right, fair enough. He's 24, so he isn't that young. If we're being honest, he's not too young where it's a case of we're fully relying on potential. He does have a bit of experience. And obviously his main attributes is the fact that he can progress the ball. And we know Ten Hag does like to play with centre-backs like Martinez, who are good on the ball, technically gifted. In fact, nowadays, modern football, all of the players on the pitch have to be technically gifted. Every single one, including the goalkeeper. Obviously, we know Onana can pass and whatnot, so he obviously has that attribute. But we need every single player to be able to take that ball confidently and to be able to work it around, to be able to create, they don't all necessarily have to create chances, but they have to be able to keep possession. They have to be able to play with both feet. If a player passes you the ball on your left foot, as a big professional player, that shouldn't be a problem anyway. But there's players out there who you give them on the left foot and they're struggling. They can't pass it with the left foot. That can't happen in modern football anymore. You need players that can play confidently with both feet, and Todibo is one of those players. Another player that we're being linked to is Antonio Silva. So he is very young. He is 19. Might be one of the youngest players in our team if he does come in. So he actually has a release clause. I don't know how true this is, but he has a release clause for 86.7 million. Now, in my opinion, he's not worth that. In fact, I don't even want us to pay anything near that for anyone anymore going into next season. I don't want us to pay, unless they're an established player, I don't want to see United paying 80+ million for a player, because how many times have we seen that happen to us so far? Sancho was 72 million or something like that. Anthony was 80, 90 million. Hoyland was 70-something million. Who else? We've done this too many times and it's not worked out. To me, it's a bit worried. I'd be a bit scared. I'll be honest. If we to pay that much for a player, because now it's like, okay, we're paying 80 million for you. You better perform now, and we've not seen that work out. But I think once that release clause is done, I think he'll be worth about 40, 50 million. So he's a centre back, right-footed, plays for Benfica. He's got Champions League experience. He's a starting player. He's not like he's a substitute or whatever. He's a starting player. He plays regularly. So that's definitely someone who I think a lot of people who know about him have linked him with United. Let me just see the chat, what people are saying. People are still talking about Bruno. Someone said Bruno isn't in the same conversation as Rashford. Bruno has still done it. Bruno has done it consistently for us and has credit in the bank. His wage isn't on Rashford's scale either. Bruno needs to pick and choose his passes more carefully. You know what it is with me? This is another thing. I know I keep going on tangents. It's 3 o'clock now, so I'm going to wrap up soon. But when it comes to wages, I really think it's unfair. And I do it as well. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm guilty of this as well. But I really think it's unfair to judge players based on how much money they're making, because you're going to aim to earn the most amount of money. No player, if offered 350 grand a week, is going to say, I'm not worth it. I'm only worth about 150, so I'm going to take 150 and not take the 350 because that's how good I think I am. No player is going to do that. If you're a player, you've obviously got a team behind you who are going to negotiate your deals anyway, but you're going to want to earn the most regardless. That's a job. Football's a job. They're going to want to earn the most. So I'm just putting myself in a footballer's shoes. If I'm someone like Rashford and I keep seeing people say, oh, but you're earning 300 and something grand a week, I'll be thinking, yeah, would you not? Like, would you not do the same thing? Like, why would you not want to earn the most amount of money you can? And like I said, I'm guilty of doing the same thing. I always say he's earning this much, so he has to play like this. But when you actually look at it from a footballer's point of view, it's not really a fair reason for you to say that he has to perform like this because he's earning that amount of money. Everybody would earn that amount of money. Like, that's just like, it's normal. Like, you wouldn't say no to it. So yeah, I'm gonna go through 2 more players quickly. First one is Elise. Everyone's heard these rumors about Elise coming to United on the right wing side. Plays for Crystal Palace. 22 years old. He rejected a move to Chelsea last season. I think he rejected a move to Chelsea. Now the last thing that I want, first of all, is another Zaha situation, because in my opinion they're very similar. Zaha was kind of young at the time, playing for Crystal Palace. A lot of buzz, a lot of hype on his name. Zaha turned out to be a pretty decent player. Saved Crystal Palace on multiple occasions. Was their top player until he left. I don't want a situation where Elise comes to United in this broken squad and his performances just completely obliterate. He just completely underperforms. And also, there's talks that there's a trade. I think I mentioned it before about a trade with him and Wan-Bissaka. We get Elise, they get Wan-Bissaka. In my opinion, that's not worth it. Losing Wan-Bissaka means we're going to have to get another right back anyway. And that right back that we're going to have to get in has to be better than Dalot, because there's no point getting a right back who isn't as good as Dalot or is worse than Dalot. So we're going to have to buy another player regardless. So I don't think that's worth it. But I do like Elise. Most people do like Elise. He's a good player. There's no reason to not like him. But to me, that move right now doesn't make sense. I'd rather get an fully established right winger who's going to take on that role, take Anthony out of the equation completely. I don't even want there to be a discussion between as to whether Anthony or the new right winger starts. I want it to be a case of Anthony knows himself he's not starting. Ten Hag knows 100% Anthony not starting. I don't want a player to come in and it's a conversation as to which one plays. And the last one I want to speak about is Guirassy, who is a striker, which is a position in my opinion, that's one of the top 3 positions that we need right now. Because Højlund, as good as he is and the potential that he has, he's still young. He still needs someone to learn from. Let's say his form does continue how it does and he does pick up a few goals here and there. I still don't want to have to rely on him 100%. I definitely don't want him to get injured or anything like that as well. So to bring in a player like Guirassy, who scores 17 goals in 14 games in Bundesliga. Now, yeah, the Bundesliga is a bit of a, Werner scored 28 goals and went to Chelsea and couldn't get more than 10. So the Bundesliga is a bit of a hit or miss as to whether they are truly top strikers, but he is showing numbers-wise that he's putting in work, and he's 27 years old, going into his peak of his career, established. In my opinion, if he was an option, a serious option, I would take him. to play as with Højlund. At least you can show him a few things anyway. You never know. Super chat here from Dun Kania says, nobody's saying wages are players' fault, but if you're asking if we should sell a player, then fee and wages play a huge part. Rashford doesn't justify keeping. Now, that is facts. That is facts. When it comes to the business side of football, wages do play a huge part. Every club's got a wage bill. Every club has to try and even out the books. I mean, Rashford, because he's an academy player, we didn't buy anything for him. So if we were to sell him for, I mean, who knows what Rashford would go for in this climate. But if we were to sell him for a huge fee, that is something that could balance out the books a little bit. So 100%, I do think you're right. When fees and wages do matter on a business sense, but I just think it's a bit unfair to get onto Rashford and say, well, you're earning this much, so you have to play like this. Like, okay, like it doesn't make sense, in my opinion. So I'm gonna read out a few more chats. Time's done anyway, so a few more chats. Matt, he's here right now. He says, if it's under the region of around 60 million, at least would be a smart signing. 6 million is a decent price. I think, yeah, I think it's 60 million is around that price where it's kind of United territory. We paid 50 million for Wan-Bissaka, and that was what, 4 years? I don't know how long. That was a while ago, about 4 years ago, something like that. 60 million isn't too much where it's like, okay, he's a star signing. I think when you get to the 70s, 80s, 90s, that's when the pressure comes onto a player. It's like, okay, I'm a big money signing now. I have to perform. 60 million, 50 million, around that price. It does kind of ease the pressure off a little bit for him. And you know United anyway, we have a little 20% tax on players. Like, as soon as the players link to United, the clubs are thinking, yeah, let's juice them out of a bit of money. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. My time's well and truly done. I was gonna go a bit more into some of the other signings, but I'll do that next time I have a show, I think next week. But yeah, thanks for everyone who's been in the chat. Thanks for all the super chats. It's been a decent show. Yeah, make sure you're on Twitter using #UnitedStar and comment on everything that I spoke about today. Which signings you think United should get in the summer? Which players you think should keep? Which players you think we should sell? And also those quotes that came out about McTominay, Rashford, Bruno. What are your opinions on those players? And yeah, we'll see you next time.